you've ever checked into a cheap highway hotel after midnight, you know the routine. You're tired. You're not reading reviews. You just want a bed, a door that locks, and a room that resembles the photos on the website. The clerk slides you a keycard, circles the Wi-Fi password, and sends you up with a bored smile. Now imagine this. You wake up at 3:17 a.m. Your room is freezing. The alarm clock is flashing nonsense numbers. And someone is lying in the bed across from you. Same hair, same face, same clothes. You're staring at yourself. It blinks first and smiles like it knows something you don't. You bolt upright, hit the lights, and the other you is gone. Just the imprint on the sheets where a body should have been. By morning, you check out, shaking it off, calling it a nightmare, a stress hallucination, anything but real. You drive home. You move on. You never tell anyone the full story. Years later, on another road trip, you're tired again. You pull off at a random exit, step into a random lobby. You don't recognize the name of the place, but the carpet looks familiar, and the clerk hands you a keycard without even asking your preference. 7th floor, they say. Room 712. You frown. You've never stayed here before. At least that's what you remember. Because here's the thing about the hotel room no one can stay in twice. You only realize it's your second time after you've already closed the door behind you. There are hotels you forget the moment you check out, and there are hotels that never quite let you go. The Riverside Crown in Cedar Falls, Oregon, should have been the first kind. Mid-range, beige carpets, a lobby piano that hadn't been tuned since Obama's first term, coffee that tasted faintly of cardboard, the kind of place you stop at on a long drive and never think about again, except for room 712. If you grew up within 100 miles of Cedar Falls, you'd have heard about it. People joked about it in high school locker rooms and over beers after Little League games. No one stays in 712 twice, they'd say. If they're lucky, they only stay once. Some stories claimed the room was haunted. Others said it was used for government experiments. There was even one version where the hotel manager was a serial killer, picking his victims from that one unlucky room. Most adults rolled their eyes, but Drew Callahan didn't. At 36, Drew was a freelance writer whose career had drifted from journalism to content, and from content to whatever paid that month's rent. He covered school board meetings and local scandals, but over the last few years, his most read pieces were about strange places. A rest stop that people claimed shifted locations, a ghost town that still showed active cell signals, a roadside diner that served a dish no one could fully remember, urban legends that clung to real places, stories you could map. When an old classmate mentioned room 712 in a bar in Portland, half drunk, half joking, Drew's brain locked onto it. "Wait," he said, setting his beer down. "What do you mean, no one stays twice?" His friend shrugged. "Just what I heard. People check in, freak out, check out. If they come back to the hotel, they refuse that room. Some never come back at all. My cousin worked there one summer. He said they stopped assigning it unless they were fully booked. Manager keeps it on the system, but the staff call it the revolving door." Drew's fingers twitched for a notebook he no longer carried. "Anybody die in it?" he asked. "Not that I know of. That's the weird part. No bodies, no crime scenes. People just don't talk about what happened. One guy checked out at 3 in the morning, drove 6 hours straight, and refused a refund because he didn't want to stand at the front desk long enough to argue." Drew leaned back, eyes narrowing. "So everyone leaves alive," he said. "But no one goes back." "Exactly. Except the rumor is, if you ever try to stay there again, something worse happens. Like the room remembers you." They laughed it off and changed the subject. But Drew didn't really change it. Not in his head. He went home, opened his laptop, and searched for Riverside Crown Cedar Falls. The website was generic. The photos were dull. The reviews were average, with the usual complaints about thin walls and slow Wi-Fi. But here and there, if you scrolled far enough, patterns emerged. "Loved my stay, except for one weird night on the 7th floor. Management was great about changing my room after a strange experience. Won't stay on the upper floors again. Don't ask. No one mentioned 712 directly. Drew felt the familiar pull in his chest, the feeling that a story was sitting somewhere, patient and quiet, waiting for someone to turn on the light. He checked his bank account, thin but not empty. A trip to Oregon wouldn't break him if he drove instead of flying. He stared at the hotel's reservation form. When the room list popped up, he scrolled past the suggested Deluxe King and the Riverside Suite. There, standard Queen Room 712, available. His cursor hovered over it. He clicked. On the confirmation email, there was no warning, no disclaimer, just the usual corporate cheerfulness. We look forward to welcoming you to the Riverside Crown. Drew leaned back in his chair, the glow of the screen reflecting in his eyes. He told himself it was just another assignment, just another weird local story. But some part of him already knew he wasn't just going to write about Room 712. He was going to stay in it. And if the legend was right, that meant making a choice no one else had been foolish enough to make. Because the real question wasn't why no one stayed in Room 712 twice. It was what would happen if someone tried. And Drew was very, very good at trying things other people knew to avoid. Drew reached Cedar Falls on a gray Thursday afternoon, the kind where the sky looks like dirty cotton and everything smells like wet asphalt. Cedar Falls wasn't a tourist town. It was a place you drove through on your way to somewhere else. 2 exits, a few chain restaurants, a handful of mom-and-pop businesses clinging to life. The Riverside Crown sat just off the highway, squeezed between a shuttered furniture store and a tire shop. Its sign was once gold, now faded to a tired yellow. 3 of the letters no longer lit up. From a distance, it read, Inside, it smelled faintly of chlorine, old carpet, and burnt coffee. The lobby was exactly as the website had promised. Comfortable, forgettable. Beige armchairs, a fake fireplace, a glass bowl of mints that looked like they'd been there since the Bush administration. The woman at the front desk wore a navy blazer and a name tag that read Melissa. "Welcome to the Riverside Crown," she said with practiced brightness. Checking in. He slid his ID and credit card across the counter. Reservation for Callahan. Drew. Her fingers moved confidently over the keyboard, then paused, just for a second. "Standard Queen, 3 nights," she said. "7th floor." Her eyes flicked up to him, quick and searching. "Correct," he said. Another tiny pause. "Are you here for business or leisure, Mr. Callahan?" she asked. "Work," he said. "I'm a writer." "Ah." Her smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Well, we hope you'll find everything comfortable." She ran his card, printed the receipt, and reached for a keycard. Drew watched the room number populate on the check-in form. For a second, the screen showed something else, 702. Then it flickered and reset. 712. Melissa's mouth pressed into a line. She slid the card toward him. "You're in 712, she said. "Elevators are around the corner. Breakfast is from 6 to 10. The pool and fitness center are on the 2nd floor. If you need anything, dial 0. Her voice was polite, neutral, but her eyes weren't neutral. They were measuring. "Is there a problem with the 7th floor?" Drew asked lightly. "Noise? Renovations? Ghosts?" He expected a laugh. Polite denial. Melissa did laugh, but it was delayed, like she'd had to find the sound and push it out. "No," she said a little too quickly. "Nothing like that. We're just not very full this week. If you'd prefer a lower floor, we can." 7 is fine, he said. She hesitated, then nodded. "Okay, enjoy your stay, Mr. Callahan." He picked up his keycard. As he turned away, he heard the low murmur of 2 housekeepers by the supply closet. One of them, a woman with her hair pinned back, glanced at him, then at Melissa, then at the monitor still showing 712. Her lips moved. Drew couldn't hear what she said, but he could read shapes. Why him? He stepped into the elevator, alone. The doors closed with a soft metallic sigh. The numbers climbed. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. His ears popped slightly. At 7, the elevator chimed. The doors slid open onto a carpeted hallway that was somehow quieter than the lobby had been, like the sounds of the rest of the hotel had been muted on purpose. The air felt different, cooler, a faint smell of cleaning chemicals and something else he couldn't name. Not rot, not mold, something like the inside of a long-closed book. He found room 712 halfway down the corridor, on the right. It looked perfectly normal. Beige door, brass numbers, peephole, a small scuff near the bottom, where luggage had probably bumped it 100 times. He stood there, keycard in hand. He thought about every story he'd ever written. Every time, he'd convinced himself there was nothing to be afraid of until after he'd already stepped over the line. You came here for this, he told himself. Drew slid the keycard into the lock. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the light flashed green. The bolt clicked. The door to room 712 swung inward. No knocks. No phantom footsteps overhead. No flickering lights. At 10, he turned off the TV and lay back on the bed fully clothed, hands behind his head, listening. The AC unit ticked as its metal contracted. A car door slammed outside several floors below. Somewhere distant, a child laughed in the hallway, followed by a parent shushing them. Normal hotel sounds. He almost felt disappointed. Around 11:15, just as he was drifting, the temperature dropped. Not a gradual shift like a thermostat adjusting. An instant, abrupt drop, like he'd stepped from a summer sidewalk into a walk-in freezer. His breath puffed visibly in front of his face. The alarm clock flickered. The blue digits glitched, showing nonsense for a second, 7F, 3 at. Before resetting to 11:16, the AC unit remained still. The thermostat screen went black. Drew sat up, heart picking up speed. "Okay," he whispered. "Now we're doing this." The metallic smell intensified, as if someone had opened a drawer full of cold steel. He turned on the lamp. The light came on, but dimmer than before, as if it were pushing through water. The room looked the same, yet wrong. Shadows were thicker in the corners. The curtains barely moved, even though he could hear the wind outside. The voice recorder on the nightstand clicked on by itself. Drew stared at it. He hadn't set it to voice activation. The tiny red light blinked steadily. He heard nothing at first, just the sound of his own breathing, too loud in the quiet. Then, very softly, from somewhere he couldn't place, inside the room, outside the room, inside his own head, a sound like a whisper passed through the air. It wasn't words. Not yet. Just the shape of them. His skin crawled. He reached for the recorder, hand shaking slightly. "Room 712, he said, voice low. "First anomaly. Temperature drop. Electronics glitch. Automatic activation of recorder. Possible power surge. Possible faulty wiring. The metallic smell is stronger. Hearing something." He stopped. The first thing Drew noticed was how normal the room looked. Standard hotel layout. Bed against the far wall, crisp white sheets, and too many pillows. A small desk with a swiveling chair. A lamp that hummed faintly. A TV bolted to the wall. A window with heavy curtains framing a view of the parking lot and the strip mall beyond. Nothing about it screamed cursed, haunted, or experimental. He wheeled his suitcase in and shut the door behind him. The air was cool, almost cold. The AC unit under the window rattled softly, even though the thermostat showed the system is off. A faint, lemony cleaning product smell hung in the air, but underneath it there was something else. Metallic, like old coins or the inside of a battery. Drew dropped his bag on the luggage rack and walked a slow circle around the room. He checked the bathroom. Clean. Standard amenities. Extra towels. No ominous messages on the mirror. No scratches on the tiles. The shower curtain was a bland off-white, with no suspicious stains. The closet held 2 extra pillows, an ironing board, a safe, and 3 abandoned wire hangers. He sat on the edge of the bed, creaked faintly. "Okay," he said aloud. "So far, you're just boring." He pulled out his notebook this time, more out of habit than necessity, and scribbled impressions. Cold, metallic smell, staff reaction. The hallway is too quiet. He set up his voice recorder on the nightstand, more as a ritual than anything. "This is Drew Callahan," he said, letting his tone go conversational, the way he did when he narrated his own pieces. "Room 712, Riverside Crown Hotel, Cedar Falls, Oregon. Time is 4:52 p.m. Local urban legend says no one stays in this room twice. Staff seem aware that something's off but won't say it. First impressions. The room is generic, slightly colder than expected. No obvious signs of tampering. We'll document first night, see if anything happens." He clicked the recorder off. Sunset came slowly, turning the curtains into squares of dim orange before they faded to gray. He answered some emails, half-heartedly outlined his story. By 9:30, the room was fully dark except for the blue glow of the alarm clock. Nothing happened. The whisper came again, this time closer. 3 syllables. Soft, insistent. "Don't sleep here." The lamp flickered. The door chain rattled. Drew's throat went dry. He swallowed hard. "Okay," he said into the recorder, forcing his voice steady. Correction. Hearing a voice. The temperature snapped back to normal as fast as it had dropped. 1 second, Drew's fingertips were numb. Next, the air was room temperature again, the metallic smell gone as if someone had sucked it out through a vent. The lamp brightened. The alarm clock steadied. The voice recorder stopped. Drew sat in the bed's half-rumpled sheets, listening for more. Nothing. He rewound the recorder and hit play. His own voice came through clearly. The descriptions, the correction, but the whisper, silence. He replayed it, slowed it down. Nothing but static and his own breathing. Whatever he'd heard, the recorder hadn't. He slept badly after that. Every time he drifted off, he felt the distinct sensation of someone standing just inside his peripheral vision. Not close enough to touch, not far enough to ignore. By morning, he felt wrung out and brittle. Downstairs, the breakfast area smelled of waffles and burnt coffee. CNN murmured on a TV mounted in the corner, the anchor's lips moving silently beneath bold captions about markets and storms. Melissa was at the front desk again. Her blazer was different, but her expression was the same. Pleasant, professional, guarded. "How was your night, Mr. Callahan?" she asked. He studied her face. "Fine," he said. "Cold. Does your HVAC have issues on the 7th floor?" Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Not that I'm aware of. If you'd like, we can have maintenance check it." "I'll let you know," he said. "I'm actually doing a piece on hotels and local stories. Urban legends, that kind of thing. Your place came up." Something flickered behind her eyes. "Oh, yeah. People talk about the 7th floor. Can't imagine that's good for business." Her fingers tightened around the pen in her hand. "People will talk about anything on the internet," she said lightly. "We're fully compliant with all safety regulations. No incidents on the 7th floor." "Never?" he asked. "Never," she repeated. The housekeeper who'd looked at him the day before rolled a cart out of a side room. Her name tag read Rosa. She caught his eye and quickly looked away. "Rosa," Drew said, raising his voice just enough. "You've worked here a while?" Her hands stilled on the cart handle. 5 years, she said cautiously. "Is there anything wrong with room 712? Melissa cut in, her tone smooth. "Rosa mostly works the 2nd floor," she said. She wouldn't know. Rosa glanced at her manager, then at Drew. "He shouldn't be in that room," she said quietly. "Rosa," Melissa snapped, the word coated in sugar but edged with steel. "What do you mean?" Drew asked. Rosa's eyes were wide. "People request to move," she said. "Always. Some in the middle of the night. Some don't stay. Some stay, but when they come back." She cut herself off. "When they come back, what?" he pressed. Rosa shook her head. "They don't go back to that room," she said. "No one does. We tell new staff, if someone asks for 712, you offer something else." Melissa's smile had vanished. "That's enough," she said. "Rosa, can you check the hallway carpets? We had that spill yesterday." Rosa hesitated, then pushed the cart away. Drew turned back to Melissa. "So you're aware people don't like that room," he said. "We're aware some guests are sensitive to certain rooms," she said evenly. "Old building, drafts, noise, expectations. If you're uncomfortable, Mr. Callahan, we can move you." He weighed that. Everything in him said stay. But another part, the animal part that had heard the whisper in the cold and believed it, shifted uneasily. "I'll stick with 712 for now," he said. "I like to see things through." Her jaw clenched just enough to notice. "In that case," she said, "let us know if you need anything." As he walked away, Drew heard Rose's voice behind him, low and insistent in Spanish. Words he didn't fully catch but understood enough to feel. "Él no debería quedarse allí una segunda noche." He didn't need a translation to know the last part. He shouldn't stay there a second night. Drew spent most of the morning in his car, parked in a shady corner of the lot, laptop open, using his own hotspot instead of the hotel's Wi-Fi. Old habit. Safer that way. He dug. The Riverside Crown had opened in 1998 under a different name. Ownership had changed hands twice. There had been minor violations, kitchen cleanliness, elevator inspections, but nothing dramatic. No fires, no murders, no obvious tragedies. He widened his search. Local news archives, county records, police logs. That's where he found it. A cluster of incident reports over the last 15 years, all tied to the hotel's address. Not disasters, not headlines, just events. Guests reported severe disorientation, nausea, and confusion on the 7th floor. EMTs called. No physical cause found. Declined hospital transport. Hotel patron called 911 from room, claiming someone was in the walls. Officers dispatched. No evidence of forced entry or other persons found. Out-of-town salesman reported missing by family. Last verified stay at Riverside Crown. Car found in the lot. No signs of struggle in the room. Case remains open. Always vague. Always inconclusive. Always tied in some small way to the 7th floor. He filed a FOIA request for any more detailed reports, knowing it would take weeks if it got answered at all. For now, he had to work with what he could get. Back inside, he took the elevator up again, deliberately counting the seconds as it climbed. 7 floors, 11 seconds. Not unusual. The 7th floor hallway was empty. He walked past 702, 704, 706. Each door looked identical, but the numbers felt heavier as he approached 712. His skin prickled when he passed 708. By 710, the hairs on his arms were standing up. He stopped in front of his door. Someone had slipped something under it. A folded piece of hotel stationery, pushed just halfway through. He picked it up. No name, no room number, just a handwritten list in quick, cramped script. 1. Don't turn off the lights. 2. If you hear knocking from inside the closet, do not open it. 3. Do not look in the mirror after midnight. 4. If the phone rings and there is no one on the line, hang up immediately. 5. If you see yourself already in the room, leave. At the bottom, in smaller letters, no one stays twice. You shouldn't stay once. Drew's heartbeat thudded in his ears. He looked up and down the hallway. Empty. No doors closing, no footsteps retreating. He slipped the note into his pocket like evidence. Inside the room, everything was as he'd left it. The bed was made by housekeeping, the bathroom was straightened, and his bag was moved slightly to vacuum around it. He checked the closet. Empty. He checked the mirror. Just him, looking a little more tired than he wanted to admit. He sat at the desk and spread the note out, smoothing the creases. "Okay," he said softly. "Now we're getting somewhere." He flipped open his notebook and wrote 2 columns. Rumor observed. He filled in what he had. Then, at the bottom of the page, he wrote a question, circled it, and underlined it twice. What happens if someone breaks Rule 5? He tapped the pen against the margin, thinking. That night, he decided he would break at least one of the rules. Not to be reckless. To see whether this was a series of psychological suggestions. or something that didn't care whether he believed in it or not. By the time the sun went down on Drew's second night in room 712, the sky had turned the color of a bruised peach, and the parking lot lights had flickered on one by one. He ordered takeout, ate at the desk, and left the TV on low in the background. A sitcom laugh track filtered into the walls and seemed to die there, as if the room were muffling even fake joy. On the nightstand, the note sat like a dare. He read it again, slowly. Don't turn off the lights. He left the main lamp on. If you hear knocking from inside the closet, do not open it. He eyed the closet door. It stood slightly ajar, just enough to show darkness. Do not look in the mirror after midnight. He checked his watch. 9:48 p.m. If the phone rings and there is no one on the line, hang up immediately. He glanced at the beige landline on the nightstand. It hadn't rung once since he checked in. If you see yourself already in the room, leave. That one sat under his skin like a splinter. He set up his recorder again. This time, he left it running with video, propped up against the lamp to catch as much of the room as possible. This is night 2 in room 712, he said, voice comm for the camera. I've received an anonymous note with instructions on what not to do. Intend to follow some of them, violate at least one under controlled conditions. Goal is to determine if this is a sophisticated prank, a psychological test, or something else. He swallowed. Starting observation at 21:50 hours. Time passed slowly when you were waiting to be scared. 10:30. The sitcom ended. The news came on. He muted it. 11:15. The temperature held. No sudden drops. 11:59. The digital clock on the nightstand ticked over to 12 a.m. Drew stood in front of the bathroom mirror, lights still on in the main room, his own reflection looking back at him. Don't look in the mirror after midnight. He looked. Nothing happened. His face stayed his face. A little pale, eyes slightly bloodshot. No figure in the shower behind him. No hands on his shoulders. He leaned closer. This may all be a suggestion, he said softly, priming guests with warnings, seeing what their minds conjure. He switched off the bathroom light but left the door open, stepping back into the main room's lamplight. At 12:17, the phone rang. The sound made him jump. The beige landline jangled with an old-fashioned urgency that felt out of place in the corded age. He stared at it. If the phone rings and there is no one on the line, hang up immediately. He picked it up. Hello. For a second, there was nothing. Then, faintly, a sound like someone breathing underwater. Mr. Callahan. The voice was male. Calm. Too calm. Who is this? Drew asked. Static crackled. The line buzzed. Do you want to know the truth about this room? The voice asked. Drew's hand tightened around the receiver. Yes, he said. You're already breaking the rules, the voice said. That's good. We need someone who will. The lamp flickered once. Who is we? Drew asked. The line hissed. It remembers you, the voice said. That's the part they never say. Not in the stories. You can survive once. Some people even go on with their lives. But the room doesn't let go. Drew glanced at the note. Who wrote this? He demanded. Did you? The breathing on the line shifted. Closer. I stayed there, the voice said. 10 years ago. I checked out. I thought it was over. But you don't really leave 712. You just move it. The hair on the back of Drew's neck stood up. What are you talking about? They say no one can stay twice, the voice continued. They're wrong. You don't stay twice because the second time it's not a stay. It's a trade. The line went dead. Drew jerked the receiver away and stared at it. A dial tone hummed in his ear, flat and mechanical. He hung up slowly. On the video screen, the little red light blinked. His own voice, seconds later, sounded small in the silent room. If this is a prank, he said, it's a good one. The closet door trembled. 3 slow, deliberate knocks sounded from inside it. The sound wasn't loud. It wasn't even particularly dramatic. 3 hollow, wooden knocks from inside the closet, spaced out by slow, patient pauses, like whoever or whatever was on the other side wasn't in a hurry. If you hear knocking from inside the closet, do not open it. Drew stared at the door. His rational mind put forward options. Old pipes, settling building. A guest in the next room is slamming something against the wall. His body knew better. His skin prickled. His heart stuttered. His throat went dry. The knocks came again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, he said aloud, his voice thinner than he liked. We're not doing that. He turned the camera toward the closet. If this is staged, he said, it's carefully timed. Wonder if staff are watching on a feed somewhere, laughing their asses off. He crossed the room. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the carpet had turned to mud. He put his hand on the closet doorknob. The metal burned with cold, not metaphorically, literally, like someone had stored the handle in a freezer and then attached it to the door. He hissed and pulled his hand back, fingertips stinging. You want me to open it, he muttered. That's the point. The knock stopped. The room fell perfectly silent. He retreated to the bed, pulse hammering in his ears, and sat down hard. This is Drew Night 2, he said into the recorder, breathing unevenly. We have anomalous temperature changes, auditory events consistent with deliberate knocking, and, possibly, the creepiest phone call I've ever received. He listened. No more knocks. Minutes stretched. Eventually, adrenaline drained, leaving him exhausted. He left the lights on and dozed sitting up, back against the headboard, recorder still running beside him. Somewhere around 3 in the morning, he slipped fully under. He dreamed. He was in the hallway outside 712, but the numbers on the doors kept changing when he looked at them. 708, 714, 701. None of them is his. The carpet was deeper, swallowing his footsteps. The air smelled like lemon cleaner and iron. He reached for the handle of what he thought was his door. When he pushed it open, he was already inside the room. He was lying on the bed, asleep while he watched from the doorway. The version of him on the bed stirred, rolled over, brow furrowed. Don't sleep here, Doorway Drew whispered, or thought he did. The version on the bed sat up, turned, looked directly at him. For a moment, they stared at each other. Same face, same stubble, same confusion. Then the one on the bed smiled. It wasn't his smile. You're late, Drew said. Checkout was hours ago. The lamp flared bright white. He jerked awake. The alarm clock read 3:19 a.m. The lights were still on. He was alone in the room, or at least the bed was. The closet door stood open 4 inches. Drew's first instinct was to slam the closet door. His second was to leave the room entirely, take the stairs, and sleep upright in his car in the parking lot. He did neither. He sat on the edge of the bed, rubbing his face hard, trying to scrub the dream away. This is what they mean by messing with your head, he muttered. Sleep deprivation, temperature swings, suggestion. Classic. But none of that explained the phone call, or the note, or the fact that the closet, which he was sure he'd left closed, now yawned open a few inches into blackness. He forced himself to stand. If I'm going to do this, he said, voice hoarse, I have to actually do it. He grabbed the camera, keeping it pointed at the closet, and stepped slowly forward. Closet door appears to have opened while I slept, he narrated. No drafts noticeable. No obvious mechanical issue with latch. He reached out with his foot and nudged the door. It swung open silently. The closet was empty. No shoes, no coat, no hidden speaker setup. Just the safe, the ironing board, the extra pillows. And on the floor, tucked neatly into the back corner, a single object that hadn't been there before. Keycard. Not the generic Riverside Crown design. This one was navy blue with a logo from another hotel chain entirely. A chain that no longer existed, one he recognized from childhood road trips. Embossed in white letters near the bottom were the words, "Thank you for staying with US." On the back, in black marker, room 712. Drew's scalp tingled. He picked it up gingerly. Found an old keycard in the closet, he said to the camera. from a defunct hotel brand, marked with this same room number. He turned it over in his fingers. It was warm, warmer than the air. He set it on the desk next to his laptop like evidence in a growing case file. The rest of the night passed without incident. No more voices, no more knocks. As the sky lightened to dull gray outside, his exhaustion finally outweighed his curiosity, and he slept fitfully until his phone alarm dragged him up. Downstairs, the lobby looked almost cheerful in the pale morning light. Rosa avoided his eyes entirely. Melissa looked like she hadn't slept. "How's your stay so far, Mr. Callahan?" she asked. He held the keycard up between two fingers. "Interesting," he said. "Is this yours?" Her face drained of color. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. "Closet," he said. "Last night." She glanced around, then motioned him closer. "You need to check out," she said under her breath. "Today." "Why?" he asked. "Because of this?" "Because you've already stayed too long," she said. "They only ever stay one night. You've done two." "They who?" he demanded. She swallowed. "Everyone with that room," she said. "They arrive normally. They leave different. Some shake the whole time they're checking out. Some are calm, too calm, like they're not really there. One man looked me right in the eye and asked how my kids were. I'd never told him I had kids. That could be a coincidence, he said. I hadn't had them yet, she snapped. He blinked. What happened to him? He asked. She looked at the keycard. He came back 3 years later, she said. Asked for 712. I told him it was unavailable. He got angry, insisted. He said he'd never stayed here before. Not once. But the way he looked at me, she shuddered. I put him on another floor, she said. Half an hour later, he was gone. Room empty. The bag is still there. Window closed. No sign of him leaving on the cameras. And 712? Drew asked softly. It was unlocked, she said. Housekeeping swore they'd secured it. Inside, the bed was unmade, like someone had just gotten out of it. She met his eyes. I don't know what's in that room, she said, but it doesn't like repeats, and it doesn't like being left alone. Drew pocketed the keycard. I'm not done yet, he said. She closed her eyes briefly, like she'd expected him to say that. No one ever is, she said. That's the problem. Every story has a point where you should stop. Drew knew he'd passed it. He should have checked out after the first temperature drop, after the first voice, at the very least after the mysterious call and the knocking closet. Instead, he asked for another night. The reservation system glitched. Melissa had to override 3 different error messages to extend his stay in 712. The screen flashed room unavailable twice before grudgingly accepting the change. I'm coming this night, she said quietly, for my conscience, not for your wallet. By the time the third sunset bled out behind the strip mall, Drew's nerves felt like stripped wires. He'd updated his notes, backed up his footage, emailed copies of his files to a friend with a simple instruction. If you don't hear from me in 48 hours, call the police and send them these. He didn't expect to need it. He also didn't expect the room to feel expectant, like it knew. By 11:30, everything inside 712 felt slightly off axis. The bed seemed a few inches closer to the wall than before. The lamp's shade tilted at an angle he was sure he would have noticed earlier. The art on the wall, a generic watercolor of a river, hung half an inch lower. He sat at the desk, keycard from the defunct hotel next to his laptop, recorder on, camera facing the bed. This is night 3, he said. Most accounts say people give up after 1. Staff are clearly uneasy about my stay. Anonymous warning note. Possible former guest on the phone. Object in the closet connecting this room to a closed hotel. Tonight, I'm going to test the last rule. He looked at the note. If you see yourself already in the room, leave. He let the words sink in. Whatever this thing is, he said slowly, it plays with perception, with memory, with recognition. So if it's going to escalate, tonight is the night. Midnight came and went. No phone call, no cold, just a growing, pressing feeling of being watched. Not from one direction, from all of them. He left the lamp on and lay on the bed fully clothed, head at the foot, so he could see the door, the closet, the mirror. At 12:47 a.m., the TV turned on by itself. Static at first, then a faint, warped image. The camera he'd set up on the dresser, its feed somehow appearing on the TV despite not being plugged into it. Room 712 from a distance. On the TV, he saw himself lying on the bed, exactly as he was. He sat up. On the TV, the version of him stayed lying down. His heart slammed against his ribs. He waved his hand. The version on screen didn't move. "Okay," he said aloud, voice tight. "That's new." He swung his legs off the bed and walked toward the TV. On screen, the room remained static. Drew is still on the mattress, eyes closed. He snapped his fingers in front of the camera lens. No change. He turned to look back at the bed. It was empty. "If you see yourself already in the room, leave." He swallowed hard. "Very funny," he whispered to the air. "Clever trick." He took a step backward. The temperature dropped. The metallic smell surged, thick enough to taste. On the TV, Drew's eyes opened. He stared directly at the camera and smiled that same wrong smile from the dream. "Leaving already?" TV Drew asked, voice distorted but unmistakable. Drew's fingers went numb. Every instinct screamed at him to run. Leave the room. Leave the floor. Leave the building. He backed toward the door, not taking his eyes off the screen. TV Drew sat up slowly, movements slightly out of sync with reality, like someone was dragging the frames by hand. "You checked in 3 nights ago," TV Drew said. "You thought you'd get a story, then go home. That's not how this works." The door handle behind Drew was cold and slick with condensation. He fumbled for it, heart pounding. "You can leave now," TV Drew said, tilting his head. "Most do. They go back to their lives. They write their little stories. They convince themselves it was all just a strange dream." The lamp flickered. The walls seemed to pulse. "But if they ever come back," TV Drew continued, "even by accident, even to wave at the building from the highway," he grinned wider, "the room finishes what it started." Drew wrenched the door open. The hallway outside was wrong. It was the 7th floor hallway, but stretched. Longer. The carpet is darker. The exit sign at the far end flickered between green and a sickly yellow. Behind him, the TV crackled. "You can step out," TV Drew said. "It won't stop you. That's not the game. The game is whether you'll step back in." The note in his pocket crinkled. "No one stays twice. You shouldn't stay once." Drew stepped into the hallway. The door to room 712 swung shut behind him with a soft, final click. The moment the door closed, the hallway snapped back to normal. The carpet was the standard beige. The exit sign glowed steady green. The air smelled like dust and air freshener. Drew stood there, heart hammering, hands still on the handle, waiting for reality to bend again. Didn't. A housekeeping cart rattled around the corner. Rosa froze when she saw him. "You look like you saw a ghost," she said quietly. He let go of the handle. "Is it morning?" he asked, throat dry. She glanced at her watch. 7:15, she said. "You were supposed to check out at 11. Melissa thought you might extend." He turned to look at the room number. 712. The door looked ordinary. His brain felt scrambled, like someone had gone through his memories with a magnet. "How long have I been here?" he asked. Rosa's eyes softened. 3 nights, she said. "That's enough." He nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said. "Yeah, it is." In the lobby, Melissa slid his bill across the counter. Her hands shook just enough for him to notice. "Did you get what you needed?" she asked. He thought of the voice on the phone, the knocks, the keycard, the TV, the version of himself that smiled as the room owned him. "Too much," he said, "and not nearly enough." She exhaled. "Most people leave without asking questions," she said. "They pack at 3 a.m., drive to another town, and pretend this place never existed." "Do they come back?" he asked. "Sometimes," she said, "by mistake." They're passing through on business. They pick a hotel off the highway. They stand right where you're standing and swear they've never been here before. And you know they have, he said. I see it in their eyes, she said. The way they look at the elevator, at the 7th floor button. What happens if they go up? He asked, already knowing he didn't really want the answer. She looked past him at the glass doors, at the cars moving along the road beyond. They don't check out, she said simply. The printer behind her hummed, spitting out a copy of his invoice. He slid his card back into his wallet, fingers brushing the old key card from the closet. Do you ever think about quitting? He asked. Every day, she said. But someone has to stay. Someone has to warn the ones who listen. Did anyone warn you? He asked. She smiled sadly. I was 18, she said. Needed a job. They gave me a uniform and a script. No one mentioned 712 for the first month. Then one night, a man came down from the 7th floor at 2 in the morning. He looked wrong, like he'd aged and gotten younger at the same time. He handed me a key card from a hotel chain I'd never heard of and said, if anyone checks into that room, give them this list. She nodded toward the stationery on the counter. He wrote the rules, she said. Where is he now? Drew asked. Her eyes went distant. Depends on who you ask, she said. Some say he jumped off a bridge. Some say he moved to another country and lives in a cabin with no electricity. Me? I think he never really left. Drew thought of the TV, the voice, the room that didn't like repeats. He turned toward the door. Thank you, he said. For what? She asked. For not moving me, he said. For telling me the truth, or as much of it as you can. She nodded. Do me a favor, she said. Don't come back, even as a joke, even to show a friend the outside of the building. Don't drive past here and think, wouldn't it be funny if? He met her gaze. It won't be funny, she said. It will be an invitation. He stepped out into the cold morning air. Behind him, the Riverside Crown looked smaller than it had when he arrived. Just a box of rooms piled on top of each other, humming quietly by the side of a highway no one remembered driving. He loaded his bag into his car, slid behind the wheel, and sat there for a long moment. He could feel it, not in the building behind him, in his chest, in the part of his mind replaying the TV image over and over, himself lying on the bed, eyes closed, waiting. He drove away. No one chased him. No alarms sounded. In his rearview mirror, the hotel grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared behind a line of trees. Hours later, at a gas station 2 states away, he stepped into the restroom and caught his reflection in the mirror. For a split second, his heart stopped. The fluorescent light above the sink buzzed. Behind his reflection, just for that moment, was another room. Concrete walls, a metal bed, a door with no handle. He blinked. It was gone. Just him. Just the gas station. He splashed cold water on his face and laughed once. Too loud. Too sharp. Get a grip, he muttered. Back in the car, his phone buzzed. An email notification slid across the screen. Subject: Riverside Crown. Follow-up. Thank you for your recent stay. We hope you enjoyed your visit and look forward to welcoming you again soon. His thumb hovered over the delete button. The old keycard in his wallet felt like it had doubled in weight. He didn't delete the email. He archived it, saved, filed away, like a room in his mind that he could go back to whenever he wanted. Or whenever it wanted him. Because that was the part the stories left out. No one can stay in room 712 twice. But once you've stayed there at all, you never really leave. You just carry it with you, waiting for the next time you open a door that should lead to an ordinary room and realize it's already occupied by you. And as always, follow Enter the Crime for more.